Not yet, huh?
No, I'm in.
Huh?
I'm in.
You go first. No.
Which way is it?
Right.
No.
Right. What is that?
Air fry.
Air fry. Number two.
Air fry. Air fry.
Yeah, you can air fry.
Hey, Philippe, you're off. You're not on mute right now, just so we know.
I need to talk to them, no?
No, not yet. They want you to listen to them.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. I'm going to ask that everybody put themselves on mute. I think I've muted everybody. Please do not unmute yourself unless you can ask a question. I will forewarn you, I'm going to get a new modem any day now. It's actually on delivery, but I might crop out a couple times. So please bear with me. If I lose you, if I freeze, just please be patient. Okay, so my apologies in advance. So I want to welcome you all to our 20th Fitin10 challenge. Hard to believe it's been 20, or we're moving into 20. Really, really exciting now that we're exclusively online. A lot more to come. And we've got 5 check-ins now. one every 2 weeks. Okay, so in case you didn't catch on, all those those fat readings that I gave you after we did the weigh-ins, those are your cumulative weights in pounds of fat that we're looking to lose at each check-in. Okay, every 2 weeks. So, this is going to make you that much more accountable. And I think it makes the program even that much more interesting that I get to check in with you now every 14 days. So without further ado, we're just going to get right into this, okay? It's going to be a little bit informal. A lot of it's just going to be me talking. I will take your questions, so please just hold them for now. Okay, so we're going to start with the easiest part of this, and that is the classes. You are to do 3 classes per week minimum. Okay, that's all you have to do. You don't have to do more than 3. But if you want to do more than 3, you are welcome to. If you've been fairly sedentary up until now, you've been sedentary at least for the last little while up until now, I'm going to suggest that you don't do any more than 3. Okay? As the weeks progress, weeks 3, weeks 4, and you feel motivated enough, you can do a 4th class. Okay? So if you go into Slack, if you haven't already seen this, there is the class schedule up. Okay, Martina posted the class schedule. There should also be a Zoom link in there for the classes. So that Zoom link is good for all 11 classes per week. And I say 11 because I originally told everybody 10. There's actually 11. There is a class on Friday evenings. So Martina overheard me talking to somebody. I can't remember. It was one of you. And I said there was no classes on Friday evening. That is incorrect. There is a Friday evening class at 6 p.m. Okay? So please be aware of that. My apologies for not mentioning that. So Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. Okay, again, Monday through Friday. There will be some exceptions on long weekends and stuff like that. Saturdays, 8 a.m. Okay, so Monday through Friday, there's a 7 a.m. and a 6 p.m. and Saturdays an 8 a.m. So 3 of those classes per week. Now, moving into cardio. Actually, before I move on, are there any questions about that? I did mute you, so just FYI, you may need to unmute yourself if you want to ask a question. Okay, so we'll move on. Next, we've got cardio. Now, the cardio, there is an explanation in your book on how to do it, but I want to run through this because every week it's going to change a little bit. Okay, so your cardio, you're going to do 3 30-minute sessions per week. 3 30-minute sessions of cardio per week. In a very simplistic fashion, you're going to do a warm-up phase, and then you're going to go through a phase of intervals, and then you're going to do a cool-down phase. Okay, that's it. Now, for your warm-up, you're going to get your heart rate to the lower heart rate. That's one of 2 heart rates that I give you. You're going to get your heart rate to the lower heart rate within that 10 minutes. Okay, you should get to your lower heart rate after a minute or 2. Okay, it'll take, let's say a couple minutes to get your heart rate up. You're going to try to sustain that lower heart rate for your warm-up. And your warm-up will be 10 minutes. After the 10-minute warm-up, you're going to go into your intervals. Your intervals will start every minute on the minute, and they will last 20 seconds. So at minute 10, you will start your first one, and at minute 11, you'll start your second one, etc. These intervals last 20 seconds, and the goal in each interval is to get your heart rate up to that second heart rate that I give you, that higher heart rate value. That means you're going to have 40 seconds between finishing your first interval and starting your second interval. That 40 seconds that you have, you're just going to use the same intensity that you used in your warm-up. Okay, so if you were on a stationary bike and you did your warm-up on gear, let's say 10, and you were at 70 RPMs, that's what you'll use for your period between intervals. It doesn't mean your heart rate will come back down to where it was, and that's okay. Okay? So when you start your second interval, your heart rate might still be a bit high. Don't worry about that. You'll start your second interval. You're going to try to get your heart rate back up to that higher value again by the end of the interval. So by the 20 seconds, get your heart rate up to that value again. And then you're going to take that 40-second down phase. Your first set of cardio, your first set of weekly cardio that I give you will involve 7 intervals. Just FYI. Okay? So you're going to do 7 minutes of these intervals. And then you're going to do another 13 minutes cool down to make a total of 30 minutes. 10-minute warm-up, 7 minutes of intervals, 13 minutes cool down. The next week, I'm going to give you more intervals. Okay? Probably 8. Okay? So you're going to see 8 intervals in an email from me, just to remind you. And you're going to follow the same sequence. Your heart rate values will change as well. Okay? And that's it for cardio. Okay, I'm gonna push you up to 11, possibly 12 intervals towards the end of the challenge. Okay, and your heart rate, again, your heart rate values will change. So any questions about that?
Well, I have a question.
Yes.
My question is around the heart rates. Like, does everyone get a different heart rate based on their current heart rate? Because I have a heart rate that sits really high, for example, and somebody else's might sit 20 beats lower. So how does that work?
Yeah, so in that case, Janet, if you said you have a higher heart rate than normal?
Yeah.
Yeah, so heart rates are mainly based off of just your sex and your age. Okay? So in your case, because you have a higher heart rate, you might find it. What is your resting heart rate, if you don't mind me asking?
Mid-80s.
Mid-80s. Okay. And so for you to get it up to that higher heart rate value is probably going to be much easier for you. Okay. So we'll talk about that offline a little bit. So
Okay.
I get a little bit more information from you on that. Okay.
Sure. Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes.
Do you want it in intervals, or can I do like a 3K run or something for the cardio?
So I'm going to say do the intervals just as a simple answer to you, Elaine. But there are circumstances, for example, where people will say, well, can I go and do a spin class? And I say, okay, how long is your spin class? And they say it's an hour. And I'm like, okay, well, if you're going to do a spin class for an hour, you're definitely going to burn more calories than what I've given you for the, you're going to burn more calories in that hour than you will for the half hour, for sure. So really, it's just a question of if you're doing those 3 kilometers, how many calories are you burning? My suggestion would be, we can talk about this offline, but my suggestion would be to try to stick with the intervals. Okay. If you said to me, look, I'm going to go do a 7K run, I'd be like, okay, no problem. That would be plenty, like just off the top of my head. So yeah. I just want to make sure that you're getting the minimum.
Okay. I mean, I could up it to 5K.
Yeah. So let's send it to me through Slack, and then I could just evaluate it. Yeah,
Okay.
one-on-one. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. So workouts covered, cardio covered. Let's talk about food. So if you were in my my presentation, the info session, I said you can eat what you
You're
want.
breaking.
Am I breaking up? I'm okay? All right. All right, my apologies. If you were in my info session, I said you can eat what you want, but that's not really true. Okay, that's sort of false marketing, okay, on my part. So I really, at the end of the day, let's keep this very, very simple to start with. I want you to eat real whole foods as much as you can. Fruits, vegetables, dairy, animal-based products like animal flesh, just real-based food, food that has been as little processed as possible. Now, not all processing is bad. We'll talk about that more in detail. But for the most part, I really want you just to focus on real whole foods. Okay? What you're going to get from me in an email later today is you're going to get a calorie amount. And then from those calories, I'm going to break you into what we call macronutrients. Okay? These macronutrients, protein, carbohydrates, fats, these just make up your calories. Okay? So if you get all your macros, you're going to get all your calories. Okay? Or very, very close to. And don't worry about the detail right now. Okay? But your macros come from your calories. So just remember that. Okay? So don't worry so much about thinking about your calories all the time. I want you to think about more your macros. If you are new to this challenge, that is, you have never done this challenge before, my suggestion over the next 3 weeks, 3, even 4 weeks, focus on getting, and we'll go through this in more detail, just focus on real whole foods every meal and getting a good source of protein at each meal. Okay? The protein is going to be a game changer. The protein is not something that people typically eat at every meal. Okay? I'm going to venture to say that nobody does. Okay? Unless you are conscious of it, you will not do it. Okay? Obviously, you're going to be conscious of it because you're in the challenge for the next 70 days. The protein every meal, I'm going to say this again, the protein every meal, this is going to be a game changer for you for several reasons, and we'll talk about the details in the future. Okay, why that's so important. The protein is going to be the game changer. It's not the end all be all, but it's a game changer for sure. Okay, so protein every meal, this is what I want you to focus on. Protein every meal and real whole food. That's what I want you to focus on. More important than just macros right now. Okay? If you are new to the challenge, and you want to dive in and get those macro numbers right away, go for it. I'm not going to say don't, okay? But it's more important for me, it's more important for this challenge that you, for example, eat real whole food, get protein every meal, but you're off on your macros. Then getting all your macros and eating, potentially foods that are just not very nutritious. Okay, because nutrition matters. Our health matters. We want to make sure we get good nutrition. Okay, so nutrition first, and then we'll worry about the amounts more so later. Now, that's not to say the amounts don't matter. The amounts certainly matter. But I want you to think about the quality and types of foods you're eating. This is the most important thing. The quality and types of foods you're eating, the most important thing, okay? Real whole foods, fruits, vegetables, starches, things like tubers and rice and oatmeal and stuff like that. Your proteins, a lot of these are going to be animal-based. Not everything's animal-based protein-wise. A lot of it will be. Okay, so a lot of your dairy and your animal flesh, etc. These are the things I want you to be eating. Okay, so think about more the perimeter of your grocery store and for the most part, not so much the aisles. Okay. So let's talk about macros in a little bit more detail. And I don't want this to be overwhelming for you. I realize it might be, but let's just run through it because I know some of you or a lot of you are not familiar with this. So I'm just going to share my screen and I'm going to put up a spreadsheet, okay? So can you see a spreadsheet? Yeah, okay, awesome. So don't worry about this up here. This is just details. You don't have to worry about this. This is not your diet, by the way. This is just purely a made up example. So this person's going to get about 2,100 calories. Okay, great. In terms of more detail about these calories, we're going to break this up into what we called macronutrients, right? Protein, carbohydrates, and fats. So I have, and this is just an example, I have broken up these calories into macronutrients down here in weight. The weight is in grams. Okay, your macronutrients will be, your foods will be weighed in grams or ounces, one of the two, okay? There's about 28.3 grams in an ounce, okay, thereabouts. Don't worry about that detail. We have calories and we have macronutrients. These macronutrients are coming from the calories. So if I take these calories here, and in this example, again, this is only an example, I have 40% carbohydrates, 30% fat, 30% protein. We're going to get these numbers here, okay? Again, don't worry about the percentages or anything. You're just going to get numbers from me. But what do these numbers mean? Okay, what does it mean, for example, to get 235 grams of carbohydrates a day? Well, there's going to be certain foods that are going to be what we call carbohydrate strong, okay, or carbohydrate dense foods. Foods that are primarily by calories carbohydrates. That is, they don't have much fat, they don't have much protein. Your goal would be to get 235 grams worth of carbohydrates a day. I think I just
Mark, can you back up a little bit? You've been breaking up.
Yeah, sorry. So coming back to here, using carbohydrates as an example. In this example, the goal is to get 235 grams of carbohydrates per day. Okay? Okay, plus or minus 10%. So we're going to look at eating carbohydrate strong foods, foods that are primarily carbohydrates and not really high in fats and proteins, okay? So examples of this would include fruits, many of the not all fruits, but almost every fruit, okay? An exception would be avocado. Fruits, vegetables, a lot of your grains, so there's some good breads out there that would be totally fine to have. Rice, potatoes, yams, oatmeal, etc. All of those are primarily carbohydrates. So those foods would help you to get to this 235, okay, in this example. When it comes to fat, okay, actually, let's skip fat. Let's go to protein. When it comes to protein, we want to look at protein strong foods. Again, foods that are primarily by calories protein, okay? So things like nuts and grains, these are not protein foods. They have protein, but they're not protein strong, okay? They contain more calories from other macronutrients. Foods that would fall into this category would be things like tofu or fish or poultry or red meat or Greek yogurt or cottage cheese or tempeh or what else can I think of? Protein powders. Okay, I know people will mention beans. Again, yes, beans have some protein in them, but they're going to be more of a carbohydrate strong food. There's much more carbohydrates in beans, okay? So we wouldn't consider that protein. We would still count the protein in it, but it wouldn't be a protein strong food, okay? Now, in terms of foods and what they contain, there is a list in your manual. It's not an exhaustive list by any means, but there is a list starting on page 33. So we've got protein strong foods, carbohydrate strong foods, and fat strong foods. So as a starting point, I want you to look there in terms of foods and what they contain, okay, what category they fall into. When we talk about fats, this is an interesting one. You might be surprised perhaps about some of the fats I would recommend that you eat, but ultimately we can start thinking about things like nuts. I'm sure we all know that nuts are high in fat, and this is something we need to be very, very careful with, okay? Because it only takes a little bit of nuts to really get a lot of fat. You know, we want to be thinking about things like oils, and again, we want to be careful of our sources of oils. We won't worry about that right now. Butter, okay, real butter. Your nut butters, avocado, like we talked about a little bit earlier, okay, it's a fruit, but it's really a fat source. Things like cheese, you can have cheese in your diet, nothing wrong with that. And fat would be you know, cheese is more of a fat strong food. Whole eggs, okay, that would be actually more of a, even though you're getting a lot of protein in eggs, you are getting a lot of protein in eggs. If you have a whole egg, that's more fat than anything. Okay, and that would be an okay fat to have. And, you know, there's obviously examples I'm missing here. Okay, so if you can think about this, every meal, thinking about trying to get for sure protein. Remember, I talked about that already. Get a protein strong food. Okay, page 33 in your manual talks about protein, or it gives protein examples. Get a protein strong food. Get a carbohydrate strong food as well. Fat is one of those things where we will add some, but you're also going to find that fat's going to come in just sort of off to the side with other foods. Okay, depending on the foods. Okay, so let's go through some examples of some meals. All right, so let's go with something that maybe is a little bit more appropriate for an everyday food. So I'm going to go down here to this meal here, and I'm just going to make a sandwich. So in this case, I'm going to use as bread, I'm going to use something called Silver Hill Squirrely bread. You may be familiar with it. Okay, so if we do 2 slices of this, we get 34 grams of carbohydrates. So that's going to contribute to this number up here. And I'm going to get 12 grams of protein. This bread's actually pretty high in protein for a bread. That's going to contribute to this here. You're also going to get 4 grams of fat. Okay, that's going to contribute to your total fat here. Okay, but primarily this is a carbohydrate strong food. Okay, next I'm going to add some cheese. 0 carbohydrates, but very high in fat, 12 grams of fat in this example for 2 ounces of cheddar cheese. And 9 grams of protein. So we get some protein there as well. I'm going to jump down here to the 4th ingredient that I'm going to put into my sandwich, and that's going to be some chicken breast. Just some cooked chicken breast, some sliced chicken breast. This is obviously going to be carbohydrate free or virtually carbohydrate free. It's going to have a little bit of fat, but we can see the protein is very, very high. Okay, so as you can see, I'm just adding foods in here and it's contributing to these numbers up here. So we could put some Miracle Whip in there. We could argue about whether Miracle Whip is something we should be eating or not. But for the sake of simplicity right now, we put some Miracle Whip in there for some flavor, some lettuce, some tomato. I added in some kiwi here just to round out the carbohydrates, okay? Because I was trying to get to an average of about 55 grams of carbohydrates. Did I lose you? Did you lose me? Yeah, sorry. So if you add up each of these macronutrients, we get some numbers down here. And by the way, each of these numbers, these totals for each meal, these are just basically, because I've got 4 meals here, I've tried to divide your total macronutrients by 4 up here. Okay, so I took carbohydrates, I divided by 4, and basically made up meals that were somewhere around 55 to 60 grams of carbohydrates. something like that. Okay. I did that for all 4 meals to try to get to my 235. Okay. Same with my fat. Okay. I tried to do somewhere, well, I'm not exactly even through my meals here, but you can see I'm getting somewhere between 12 and 24 grams of fat a meal to reach to my 70 grams here. Okay, same with my protein. I took the 131, I divided it by 4. That's somewhere around, 30 grams of protein, 35 grams of protein per meal, something like that. And so I'm getting, close to those numbers. Of course, you can see that I'm very high here in my sandwich. I'm a little bit low in here. But the point is, I don't want you to be so consumed with the numbers yet. I want you just to focus on the big picture. Okay? And I want to stop here and I want to take some questions because I imagine there's got to be some questions.
Are you able to send us that spreadsheet? I know it's
Yes.
complicated, but
Yes. 100%. I'll send it today. So maybe what I'll do is I'll email you all of this, okay? So you get this. Heather, go ahead.
Mark, just a question about some of the challenges that when you get to the end of the I realize that planning in advance makes a huge difference, but when you get to the end of the day and you kind of have like, oh, maybe you haven't quite hit your calories and you have like these like combos where you'll have, a protein and carbohydrate deficit that you're like, I can't, like
Yeah.
I've maxed out on my fat for the day by a
Yeah.
long shot, and you still have these other deficits. I'm just curious about, do you have recommendations where, because your carbohydrate strong food is often not like a carbohydrate protein strong. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. So these are
It's
where
perfect.
so this is a great question, Heather. So this is where we want to look at foods. Most foods, I will tell you, not all foods, but most foods will be high in one macronutrient primarily, okay? You can find some foods, not very many, but you can find some foods that are just one macronutrient, okay? An example would be egg white. Egg white is just protein. It's basically just water and protein. So you're not getting any fat in that, you're not getting any carbohydrates, okay? Or almost zero carbohydrates. You're going to find examples of that. So a suggestion would be like, so let's just say at the end of the day in your question, you said you're short in your protein, you're short in your carbs. Okay. Now I know off the top of my head, like a lot of things that will work for that. So I'll just give you some examples. Okay. So a protein strong food, like, and this isn't going to be perfect. Okay. Because it doesn't have to be perfect. This could be anything like, okay, I want to make up my protein. So I'm going to have, let's say, I don't know, maybe I'll have some egg and egg white. Okay, so maybe I'll make an omelet, let's just say. Okay, so I could add in some egg and egg white. Okay, that's going to boost up if I do whole eggs, that's going to boost up my fat a little bit. But okay, let's just put in 1 or 2 whole eggs for flavor. Okay, we'll put in some egg whites in there. That's going to boost the protein. Okay, and then we're going to throw in maybe some vegetables because that will go well in an omelet. We like that, right? But that's probably not going to get your carbohydrates way up there because vegetables are not generally very carbohydrate dense. So maybe we could add in a fruit. We could say like an apple or an orange or a banana, okay? Or maybe we're going to have some toast, okay? Like, we make an omelet. What would go well with an omelet? Toast. Okay, make some toast. Toast is primarily just carbohydrate. Or what else goes well with an omelet? How about some fried potato? That's fine. You can have that, okay? And now this is where we're going to start to look at, eventually when we get into being more comfortable with this, we're going to start looking at the, in more detail. If you're not already in the beginning, we want to start looking at amounts because amounts matter, right? It's great that we're eating real whole foods, quote, healthy foods, but amounts matter. Calories matter at the end of the day. But as I mentioned in the beginning, I want you to think big picture first, and I want you to think about health first. Okay, nutrient dense food. Is that helpful, by the way?
Yeah, that's exactly right. It actually probably just highlights that in those times, like at the previous challenge where I was struggling with that, I should have just sent you a message and been like, this is where my deficits are. What are some ideas? And then I would have been like, oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah, and you know, you guys, if you want, probably the best way to go about this, and I'm happy to do meetings like this in the future. You know, you can write me publicly in Slack if you're okay with it, and then I can put my answers publicly, and that way everybody can see. You know, and you could be like, you know, what do I do in this case? And I can give you whatever, you know, 6, 8 meals that will fulfill that, or whatever. You know, I'll give you lots of examples.
Mark,
So yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so this is a nifty little spreadsheet you got going on here, but I'm going to guess we're not going to be use this for tracking, and then we will use one of the apps you recommended.
Yep.
And how are you expecting this? Am I jumping forward here?
Yeah,
Oh,
you
Mark
you
is
are a
frozen
little
again.
bit you are a bit, but this is a great question. So this is what we're going to get into next, is entering your food into your app, and this is something that I'm going to recommend that you do right off the bat.
I'm
Not
sorry,
necess-
you froze. You froze. Can you repeat, please?
Yeah, so this is something that we're just about to talk about.
Okay.
I was going to touch upon this just after the little question period here.
Okay.
But let's just talk about it right now. So we're going to go through an example of that shortly here using MyFitnessPal. But what I want you to do in the beginning is just to enter your food in and try to do the amounts. Okay, just so you get a feel for it. Because when you enter in your food into MyFitnessPal, so you're quite right, the spreadsheet is not something I want you to use. I want you to just enter it into MyFitnessPal, and MyFitnessPal is going to spit out these things for you, right? These macros.
Okay, MyFitnessPal is $27 a month to purchase. Anybody got any recommendations for that?
No, you can use MyFitnessPal for free.
But it only gives you 30 days. You just keep writing over
No, it doesn't. It's just wanting you to buy it.
that? Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
Perfect.
it's a trick. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so you don't have to purchase it. There are some features about that come with the purchase version that are useful, but you don't have to go that way.
I've used the free version for like 3 or 4 years, and it's great.
And do you still get the ads on yours as well? On the free version?
I probably do, but I don't actually notice them.
Okay, perfect. Oh, good. Okay. Thank you.
There's another app too you can use, but I don't want to confuse you guys. It's actually, I switched over to it just to try it out. It's called Chronometer. It's another good one you can use, and it's also free. I pay for it just because I want to see all the features and everything, but you can use it for free as well. Chronometer. Okay, I can put that up in Slack if you want to know more about it.
And we just discussed too, and I think I asked you this, Mark, I actually use my health app for Samsung. It's not as user friendly as these other ones, and the fact that you can't put your macros in daily. You can put your calories in, and it will tell you where you're at with that, and it will give you macros. But I'm finding that this might be a problem and how to get it to you. So that would be my next question. How do you need this information? What does that look like? So
yeah. So all I'd get you to do is you'd fill out your macros for the day, and you just take print screens of it, and you just send those print screens to me in Slack. So you just take images.
Mark, I just had a question about the meals. So like the Excel sheet that you have is great. Is there anything that you can give us just at the beginning to kind of like do some meal planning? Because it's really hard to kind of like focus on our week, but if like for me, if I could follow something, it makes it easier. So do you have like some samples that like, you know, around our whatever like my calorie or my macros would be that I can follow, and then I can give or take and kind of build from there?
Yeah, so I would take a look at some of the recipes in the book. So that's a good place to start. I'll send out the spreadsheet as well. The only difficulty with it, is it Jody? Were you asking, or who's asking?
Yeah, it was me, Jody. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, Jody. Yeah. The only thing is that your macros and your calories are going to change, and they're going to change week to week a little bit. So, you know, part of this is just that learning. And I know you want something to start off with. So my suggestion is start off with those things that are in the booklet, And you can even just down the portion, so the amounts of everything in there in an even amount. I'll also send out this spreadsheet, and then you can also reference me as well. Okay, if you're having any issues with it.
Okay,
But
great.
yeah, the way I want you to think about this is, I know this is not like, super, sexy in the beginning, but I want you to think about eating for a purpose and eating those basic foods. Okay. So there are actually some great recipes in your booklet that are high protein. All the recipes in there are high protein. So have a look at those, start with those. Some of them are my own personal ones, which are maybe, they're okay, but some of them are just, regular professional recipes that you can have a look at that I think will be helpful to you.
Great, thank you.
Felipe, sorry. You got to unmute yourself. I can maybe unmute you.
Oh, I just said great, thank you.
Here we
Thanks.
go.
Thanks.
I have a question in regards to egg whites. You can buy those egg whites in a little can in the stores.
Yeah.
Or does that compare to, is they separate your egg whites from your yolk?
Yeah, same thing.
Same thing, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so you could go with either. I buy, when I go to Costco, I buy those
The
packs
blue
of,
one, the little containers, right?
yeah, they come in a pack of 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I buy that too, yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I.
But that's
what
an
I
easy
use.
way to get your protein, correct?
Yeah, so every morning, I'll just tell you what I like to have every morning. I'm a creature of habit, so I actually just do a mixture of oatmeal and egg white, and I cook that together, and then I add fruit to it, and I put yogurt on top, and I love it. And I've had it for 20 plus years.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
it's
know
really,
what to
really
make for
good.
breakfast for you.
What's that?
I know what to make for breakfast for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So listen, I don't want to overburden you with this. I'm happy to go through more details, and I'm happy to talk about it more. I really more just want you to start, okay? Just start and do your best with this. The two main things here, though, more than anything, real whole food and protein strong food every meal, okay? Beans and nuts are not protein strong. Just want to remind you, okay? Yes, they contain protein. They're not protein strong. They're high in either carbohydrates or fats, okay? Depending on what we're talking about. So protein strong food every meal. Every time you eat, I want you to think protein strong food. And then in addition to that, your sources being real whole food. Sorry, I think I just lost me. Protein strong food and real whole food every meal. Okay? Yeah, I know I cut out. Sorry. Protein strong food and real whole food every meal. Okay? Think about those two things. Okay? So
okay.
If you're not sure about what I mean, you can ask me right now, like examples of this. I mean, I kind of went through it a little bit, but it doesn't mean it's clear. Any questions? Do you want me to go through another meal here on this spreadsheet? Anybody?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, let's go through the second meal here, okay? So this is a very basic meal. I like this because it's very quick. It's just Greek yogurt, almonds, some berries, and banana. So Greek yogurt, especially low-fat Greek yogurt, we're getting in just 3/4 of a cup. I don't want you, by the way, sorry, this should not be here. This should be in weight, okay? So I'm going to put this in weight right now. So I'm going to actually take this out. I'm going to say 210 grams because that's what it is. Actually, it's probably more like 200 grams. Okay, I'm a total nerd that I know this, but I do know this. 200 grams of Kirkland Greek yogurt is going to give you about 21 grams of protein and 9 grams of carbs. Okay, so yogurt, that's very easy. It's ready to go. You just put it in the bowl. And if you're going to weigh it out, which I'm going to encourage you to do, right, especially as we move through the challenge, this only adds 15 seconds to your preparing of this meal. Yogurt, throw in some almonds here. This is actually 20 almonds, which is going to be about, no, I'm sorry. This should say 20 grams. 20 grams of almonds, which will probably be around 15 almonds. You can see that we're getting 12 grams of fat, and by calories, this is a very fat-strong food. Yeah, we're getting some carbohydrates, we're getting some protein, but primarily we're getting a lot of fat here, 12 grams. Regardless, all these are going to contribute. So some almonds with Greek yogurt, and then I added in some mixed berries. I always buy those bags of Costco. Costco's got those frozen berries. So 4 ounces. Okay, 4 ounces is about 115 grams. Or it's about a quarter of a pound. Okay, it's exactly quarter of a pound. So I put some berries in there. You can see it's primarily carbohydrate, right? There's no protein, and there is a little bit of no, excuse me, that's protein. There's no fat, and a tiny bit of protein. And then I'm going to put in 1 banana. Again, we would weigh this out. I've got 4 ounces. Okay, this is like a medium-sized banana, 4 ounces. So actually, I'm going to change this to 4 ounces. And I'll just get rid of this. So 4-ounce banana, we get in 4 ounces about 26 grams of carbohydrates, no fat, very little protein. This is a carbohydrate dominant food, just like berries. Okay, and we can see the total here. We get 54 grams of carbs, we get 12 grams of fat coming from almonds only, and 27 grams of protein. So very high protein meal there.
Can I also ask about the raw versus cooked? And also, it's summertime. We might end up going to a restaurant for one reason or another. We can choose the best thing on the menu.
Yeah.
If I'm not going to bring a scale to a restaurant, it would be weird. How do we guesstimate when we're not 100% sure?
Yeah, so first of all, go with basic foods. So then you know more about what you're getting. Okay, so a couple things about a restaurant. A restaurant, they want to make as much money as they can. So they need to be very diligent and careful about what ingredients they use, which means they're probably going to use cheap ingredients. So just be aware of that. 2, they want to make it very tasty. Regardless of what it is, they want to make it tasty because they want you to enjoy it, right? So chances are it's going to be high in fat and or sugar, regardless. So just be aware of that when you eat at a restaurant. But that being said, try to eat, again, real whole foods. So go with like, fish and rice or steak and potato, or, you may be familiar with, if you go to like Cactus Club, they've got that, what's it called? It's like coast salad, rainforest salad or something like that. So salad that's got like egg and it's got pecans in there and fruit. So just think about trying to go with real whole foods. Don't go with something like a pasta dish or something that's going to be a conglomeration of a stuff that you really have no idea what you're getting.
I also have a suggestion. When you go to a restaurant, if you can pre-look at their menu and look at what they have, you're not going to be able to get everything that they put in there, because let's face it, we're not going to know, but at least they have the calorie content, they might have the fat content, and you can preload it. And if it's per portion size, you might have to cut it down per portion, like cut it to eat half of it or something like that. Do you find that work, Mark? Does that work?
So very good to look at the menu so you know beforehand. I'm telling you right now, the calories that they put there, they're not accurate. Just FYI on that.
Really? Okay.
No, they're not accurate. And I'll tell you this much. When you buy foods from stores, whether it's a protein bar, a cracker, a cereal, they are allowed by law to be off by 20% of their claim. So this is another argument for eating real whole food. if you eat a banana is not going to be off by 20%. It's going to be what it is, right? So just another argument for eating
I
real
bet it's exciting, whatever you say.
Poor Mark.
Did I freeze? My apologies. Real whole food will be as accurate as possible. If it's made food, they're allowed to essentially lie. Okay? Or stretch the, let's say stretch the truth.
I have a question on this chart and using it, and then wouldn't it not be helpful to have calories beside all these items as well per item?
Not necessarily, because I want you to focus on your macros. Your macros make up your calories. If you get your macros, you're going to get your calories. If you focus on your calories, you don't necessarily get your macros. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I just was like, we're trying to keep all of these nutrients and the macros within a certain calorie range. So you're always going to be watching it at the same time. You're kind of watching each of those components. So I don't know, for me, it's like you're going to have to keep them anyway. So having it on the same chart might be, I don't know, helpful. I might add it.
Yeah. So Janet, if I say to you, you're going to eat 100 grams of protein per day, you're going to eat 200 grams of carbs, you're going to eat 50 grams of fat, let's just say. And, let's just say that adds up to 800, 900. So that's 1,700 calories. If you get those macros, you will get that 1,700 calories. Okay. So if
you beyond,
you won't go beyond. You'll only go beyond those calories if you go beyond those macros.
Okay.
So just focus on the macros. If you just focus on calories, let's say, it's very possible for you to, let's say, get 100 grams of fat and still be within your calories. But the macros make a difference. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
So yeah, I give you your calories. You will get your calories in the email. The only reason I give them to you is just because everybody always asks me what are my calories. So I do give them. But your calories, so just, I don't know if you know this or not. I know some of you probably know this. Every gram of protein is on average 4 calories. Every gram of carbohydrate is on average 4 calories. And every gram of fat on average is 9 calories. So basically, when I give you your macros, you could just figure out your calories if you wanted to. But I give them to you anyways. Felipe, sorry, did you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question in regards to, when you reach your macro, basically, you stop eating for the day kind of thing, no?
Yeah, ideally, yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, because, again, this is the amount of energy you consume per day matters, right? Healthy or not, it still matters.
So, in other words, start slowly, right? I mean, don't try to reach your macros at breakfast, right?
No, I wouldn't suggest that. I mean, listen, there are people who've done the challenge and they're like, well, I just want to eat in the 8-hour window or whatever. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. You can do that. It's not really going to make any difference, but you can do it. If you want to just, in this case, this person wanted to do a 16-hour window of not eating. That's fine. You can do that. Yeah, it's really just about the calories and more specifically the macros that you get per day. That's really what we're after. When you choose to eat those, it doesn't really make that much of a difference, if any difference at all. Any other questions? One thing I want to say, actually, I'm sorry, before I take any more questions, just think of this as a journey. I know this, this happens every challenge. This is a learning experience. You will get empowered by practicing this. You will get empowered. You'll know foods much better. And this will help you to better choose and be more conscious of your eating post-challenge, which is important because,
Of course.
You're only a reflection of what you do. So you want to keep up these patterns, right? Not necessarily weighing food, but knowing what you're eating. Any other questions? Satnam, go ahead, please.
I had a question regarding cheat meals. Do we have one?
Well, here's the thing. So this is a good question. So a cheat meal would be a meal that, we kind of don't want to, we kind of just want to pretend didn't happen. So if you have a couple hundred calories and you do this once a week, it's probably not really going to make any difference. Here's the thing. With most foods that we go towards for a cheat meal, maybe like a pizza or a cake or, some kind of dessert, some food that's, usually very, very non-satiating, highly palatable, usually designed to be addictive. These are going to be foods that we can easily consume and quite honestly could, eat. And you might be surprised, even with yourself, you can get in 1,200, 1,500, 2,000 calories in a sitting, and you don't even really notice it. So we have to be very, very careful with this. So my short answer to you is no, cheat meals. If you did a couple hundred calories a week, it's, is it going to make a difference? Of course, it's going to make some difference, but it won't make a huge difference. You just have to be careful with the amount. So let's just say you had one cheat meal and you had 2,000 calories, which you might say, oh, it's not possible. I will tell you it's possible. And if you're in a calorie deficit of, let's say, 200 calories per day, there goes your week. Okay. So just be aware of this, right? This is where dieting can become very, very dieting, or when people follow some sort of regime, it can become very, very challenging and sometimes frustrating because they can take several steps forward, but in a very short period of time, take a lot of steps backwards. So we just want to be careful with that. Okay. Is that helpful? Any other questions? Do you want me to go through another example? No more examples.
Mark, can you repeat that last bit? You actually froze there.
Yeah, sorry. I was just saying that, you can do a lot of damage in one meal was my point. So, in a week, like let's just say you're in a 200 calorie deficit every day. Okay. So by the end of the week, you've created a deficit of 1,400 calories. You can make up that 1,400 calories very easily in one meal. So just be very, very careful with this. Be aware. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
So if we go for real whole food, and I'm going to go through this in more detail in my lovely daily videos that you're all going to watch because you love hearing my voice. Real whole food is going to be much more satiating, generally speaking, much more satiating, much more voluminous, and it's going to be much harder to eat. Okay, so meaning it's going to be hard for you to overconsume. So this is another reason why I want you to eat real whole foods. When we start to go towards these foods that taste really good, okay, these highly palatable, highly addictive, non-satiating foods, this is where we can eat a lot. Perfect example, like a Costco muffin. My parents used to buy these when I was a kid, and I would hide all the chocolate ones because those were the best ones. And I could eat 3 or 4. And one chocolate muffin has about 800 calories. So a lot of damage can happen. But you try eating 800 calories worth of steak, or 800 calories worth of vegetables, or 800 calories worth of fruit. It's very, very hard. So just something to think about or be aware of.
Mark,
Yeah.
this is really cool. So off the chronometer, so Elaine just sent me what she would send to you to show her daily intake, and that's really cool. Does Fitness app have that as well?
MyFitnessPal?
Yeah, MyFitnessPal. Does it have that
It-
daily? It looked really cool. She just sent me an example of it.
Yeah, so Chronometer does all your micronutrients, it does fiber, it does, I think it includes alcohol in there. So MyFitnessPal does not do that.
Oh, okay.
Now, I will tell you though, when Chronometer does that, it's hard to tell because micronutrients vary. Even in macronutrients, not so much, but micronutrients will vary in real whole foods. Like,
But what I'm asking is, MyFitnessPal, does it have that report that it can send
No.
out?
no, it doesn't.
So that's Chronometer's cool like that. So
Yeah.
there we go.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Listen, I know we're gonna move on here, and I'm gonna put in. I'm gonna open up MyFitnessPal on my screen here. Okay. So just bear with me one sec, because I want to just go through a little example. Okay. So I'm just gonna unshare my screen for a second. And I'm just gonna open up MyFitnessPal. All right, so if you use this on your phone, it's going to look different than this. But let's just go through the basics of entering. So I'm going to share my screen again here. All right, do you see MyFitnessPal? Everybody can see the screen okay?
Yeah.
All right. All right, so again, this will look different on your phone. But I'm going to click food in here, and we can see this is the default breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks. So what we can do here is we can enter food. So the thing to be aware of here, and there's some other nuances, but some things to be aware of is really the choice of food and the amount. Okay, those are the two things we want to be aware of. I will tell you that there are some entries in MyFitnessPal that are not accurate. And I realize that might be frustrating, but it's just the way it goes. But let's put in a food here. What is something somebody would like to make? Anybody want to give me some food suggestions? Anybody? Maybe I just enter something in.
Like my food suggestions are always going to be like mixed. Like if I was going to make sushi at home, something like that.
Yeah. Okay, so if we're talking about sushi, then we're talking about fish, we're talking about rice. And then you're probably going to maybe add some vinegar to the rice, is that right? Yeah, and then maybe what do you use to sweeten the rice? Do you use anything like stevia or sugar or no? Okay. All right, so let's just go with what kind of fish do you like?
Salmon.
Salmon? Okay. So we'll go with salmon. Now there are different versions of salmon, and this will matter. So for example, so if we just do a search on salmon, we're going to see a bunch of different ones. And some that are not even categorized with the type of salmon. So for example, like wild Alaskan salmon is typically fairly lean. Okay. Whereas like Atlantic salmon will be maybe not quite so lean. Okay. So, again, these are things that we'll learn and become more aware of as we go through, but let's just say it's wild salmon, wild Alaskan salmon. Now, look here, I've chosen the salmon, but it's asking me servings. So the default here is 3 ounces. But let's say you want to use, Lori, let's just say you want to use, I don't know. Let's say you want to use 100 grams. So we would choose the option here. We would go to grams, and then I would say 100. Okay, now I'm adding this for breakfast. It's kind of a weird breakfast, but you know, maybe we're Norwegian or something. I don't know if Norwegians have it for breakfast or not, but I feel like they would have something like fish, maybe cod or something. Okay, so I'm just going to add that. So 100 grams. So 100 grams goes in. We can see up here, just with adding that in, we get 5 grams of fat, 26 grams of protein. Okay, 0 grams of carbs. Okay, now I want to add some rice. Do you like basmati? Do you like jasmine? Doesn't matter.
Whatever's in the bottom of that cupboard.
All right, we'll use basmati. So I'm going to say basmati. Now, rice is obviously, it makes a difference by the way if food is cooked or not. Okay, we'll talk about this in a sec. But with rice, especially, this is a case where obviously it's going to make a big difference whether we're weighing out rice that's, you know, uncooked or cooked, right? Generally speaking, we're going to use rice that's cooked. We're not going to make 1 serving of rice. We're going to make a pot of rice and then we're going to just measure it out afterwards. Less accurate, but not the end of the world. So we'll say basmati rice. We'll do a search. And let's choose a cooked version. By the way, this icon here, this just means the food is verified. So it should be accurate in terms of calories and macronutrients. Okay, so I'm going to choose that. Now it gives 1 cup for all solids. I'm going to say weigh it, don't measure it by volume, because solids and volume are not the most accurate. Go with weight. Weight will be much more accurate. Okay, in this case, we can measure in grams or ounces. Again, 1 ounce is just about 28 grams. Let's do ounces just for, you know, just for a change. So if I do 4 ounces, okay, which would be about a reasonable serving, I'm going to add that. And if you have no idea, you go, okay, 4 ounces, I have no idea, 4 ounces cooked basmati rice, and I get 32 grams of carbs. Okay, if you want to just, you know, just for fun, you want to see the calories, 147 calories, 32 grams of carbs, 3 grams of protein, no fat. Okay. If we're going to add vinegar, vinegar is calorieless, but let's just say you didn't know that. So you just go, okay, vinegar, or it should be near calorieless. Let's do a little search here. And you're probably not going to add in too much. What would you add in? Like a tablespoon or 2 or something? Okay, let's say, whatever. Let's go with,
Rice wine vinegar, which has sugar in it.
You want to go with what, sorry?
Rice wine vinegar. It has
Rice wine. Okay, let's go rice wine vinegar. I'm going to see if I can get one that's verified. Okay, here's one that's verified. This one says 0 calories, but that might be just based on the serving. Let's go with this one here. Notice this is a specific brand. Okay, so we've chosen a specific brand. Not all brands are going to be the same. This is per tablespoon. Let's say we put in 3 tablespoons, okay? Let's just say, let's add it. Let's see what happens. So we add it and we see 15 grams of carbs. Okay, 0 fat, 0 protein. So that just took our carbs to 47. We're at protein is 29 and fat 5. Okay, total calories for this meal so far, 360. So we could keep adding stuff, but I think you are at least, and you know, you can correct me if I'm wrong, or we can keep adding stuff. You can see that when you add these in, you right away see your macronutrients, right? so you can get a feel for what is what. Again, also in your manual, pages 33, 34, 35, not an exhaustive list, but a starting list of foods and roughly how much of what they contain. Is this helpful? Is there something else you want me to go through? Okay, so again, two things I really want you to be concerned with right now, if you are new, especially if you're new, because I know some people are doing this challenge for the second, third, fourth. I think we have somebody here's like their fifth challenge. If you're new, focus on protein, every meal, protein strong food, and real whole food. Those two things. Every meal. Okay. That's the main focus. And then try entering it in just to get a feel for things. So any questions on this?
Got a question.
Yes.
Imagine you're at lunch, you're doing good so far, and now you're starting your dinner. And you have some of the figures that you have to reach that are pretty close. Let's imagine you had 300, you already have 300 carbs. You have maybe 70 protein. When your daily is 86, what do you do? Like, what do you eat? You follow me?
Yeah, so in that case, just based on what you told me, your protein is very low for that day.
Okay.
So if you're getting about 300 grams of carbs, you're probably going to be getting roughly around, 180 grams of protein or something like that to start with. Okay, quite a high. So you're very low in your protein. So we want to have a protein strong food. So we want to, this is where we would be like, okay, honestly, a steak, because a steak is very, very protein dense. So is chicken. Something like that would be very, very useful in terms of getting your protein up.
Yeah, I got it. I think I got it.
I have a comment or question, I guess, around
Yeah,
alcohol.
sure, Janet.
I'm thinking barbecues in summer and hanging out, and I'm assuming like those nude drinks or whatever, those low carb vodka based kind of drinks or glass of wine.
Oh, I'm so
guess
glad
let's
you
put it
mentioned
all
this.
in there. Yeah.
Okay, so here's what I'm going to say. I want you all to try to go dry for 70 days. I know it's not what you want to hear, but actually alcohol is one of the we think, oh yeah, alcohol is probably not good for the liver, but there are so many other aspects to alcohol that, including your quality of sleep, that it affects. So I really, really want you to try to go no alcohol. Okay, even if it's an alcohol that's low calorie, it's not the calories so much that I'm concerned about, it's more the alcohol itself.
My husband's laughing in the background right now. I can hear him laughing his head off. Anyway. Anyway.
Hey, listen, it's just a choice. And I certainly will not, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I'm going to suggest And one thing I want to suggest, because there are a lot of people that I deal with who, alcohol is is an outlet. It is a stress outlet for people. And I really want you to try to experience 70 days with no alcohol and just see how you feel. Okay. Okay. And one other thing a couple things actually about this, just while we're here talking about this. Take a look at your quality of sleep. If you have an app that monitors your sleep, like if you have one of those Oura rings, or you wear an Apple Watch to bed, check out what your app says about your sleep. Check out what your app says about your heart rate variability. Check out what your app says about your resting heart rate. I guarantee you will see these things change for the better. Try going without alcohol and see what happens.
Mhm.
Yeah, you're hating me even more now, aren't you? Try it. 70 days. You can go back to it after 70 days. It's always there for you. Okay? Just say, listen, you and I, we're going to take a break for 70 days. But I'll be back. Hopefully you won't be back, but you can just tell yourself, I'll be back. You can do it. Any other questions, you guys? Accountability wise, send me your food every day. Even if you don't think you did well, even if you think in your mind you're a failure, you're not capable, you can't do this, I don't care. I want you to send it to me. I want you to try. Those who keep trying ultimately end up being at least closer to success, whatever, however you want to categorize that. Okay.
Is there a
Those
way to
keep-
share it on MyFitnessPal or something? So we're
Yeah, but it's very hard for me because I have a million people who have done this before and I don't know who's who. It's really, really hard. And I don't know even when it's updated. So just do screenshots. It takes less than a minute. Just take screenshots, attach them as images in Slack and just send it to me. It's so much easier for me. I really appreciate it.
When do you actually want us to start this? Because you haven't given us anything yet. So is it tomorrow's the start date?
Yeah, I'm going to send it today. I'm going to send you the numbers today. By later today, you'll get your numbers.
Okay.
And I want you to start this as soon as you can.
Okay, gotcha.
So even though you don't have your numbers, you can start right now just thinking about, okay, next meal I'm going to have some protein. And I'm going to try to stick with real whole foods, right? Some fruits and vegetables or some sort of starch, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then, know that your numbers are coming this afternoon. Later this afternoon, they will be there.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, today is technically the start date.
Oops.
Any other questions? So send me, a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to bother you. I don't want to send the food. Send the food to me. I will get back to you. I try to get back to you within 24 hours. If I don't, just bear with me. I will get back to you. Okay. And I do look through all the journals. I look through everything. In the beginning, if there's a lot of things I want you to change, I'm not going to tell you everything to change. I'm just going to tell you a couple things. Okay. Because I don't want to overwhelm you. So if you don't see me correcting, like you might think, oh, he didn't correct me on this or this. It's more than likely done on purpose. Okay.
Mark, can you just explain quickly that fat percentage that I was asking you about?
Okay. Yeah. So sorry. Okay. So just ask the question, Jody, if you don't mind. Maybe open up your Renfo Health app.
Sorry, you cut out what?
Just open up your Renfo Health app and ask me the question.
Oh, the question is on the Renpro, it says that the like the fat percentage, hang on, let me just bring it up.
Yep.
When looking at it, it says that my body, like the body fat is really high, and then like the fat-free body weight is lower. So I'm curious how why it shows the body fat is so much higher than previous. It just seems weird. Like the numbers seem weird. And I actually put a different family member of mine on the scale, and he said that his body fat was a lot higher than what he's been told before. So I'm just curious, that number seems a little bit off.
Okay, so I know your number and I don't want to say it right now because maybe, yeah. But in terms of what your number is, I would say it's probably very, very reasonable. Now, I will tell you, it doesn't matter what you get done, whether you get DEXA, you get hydrostatic weighing, you get bioelectrical impedance, which this is an in-body, they're all just estimations. But the thing that matters is the difference from weigh-in to weigh-in, right? Is it going to be consistent? Is it consistent? You've done an in-body with myself, and I will tell you that it is almost identical to my in-body in terms of the reading.
Okay.
Now, Yes. So your body fat percentage is, Jody, is not unreasonable by any means. So did you think it was high for you?
I did.
Okay. When I look at that, I mean,
Yeah.
you could send me some photos of
Okay.
your, and I could take a look and I could tell you, but generally this is not, you're only about, well, I don't want to give away too much because we've got
No,
it.
let's not give away too much. That's good enough. We can talk privately.
Okay. So there's nothing, but there was another question about this. You said something didn't make sense. What, didn't you say that there's something about fat-free mass or something?
Let me just look at it for a second. 90. Yeah, because the fat-free body weight plus the body fat doesn't equal my weight.
It should. Okay, so your
We can
body
talk
fat.
about it after. Like it's real. This is really like personal. Let's talk about that after.
Okay, so let me just in case people are just curious, and if you want to ask me about it privately, that's fine. Just so you know, your body fat percentage. So if you take your weight and you times it by your body fat percentage, that's going to give you your fat mass on your body. That's the estimated fat mass that's on your body. The rest of your weight, okay, so body weight minus the fat mass, that is all your non-fat mass, obviously, right? It's everything that's not fat. So all the math should work if you do the numbers. So again, if you take your weight, you times it by your body fat percentage, you'll get your fat mass only. Your weight in pounds of fat that you have on your body, estimated. If you subtract that from your total weight, you'll get your fat-free mass, or fat-free body weight, as it's called in the app. And all those should add up fine. There should be no issue with that. And if you think there is, you can let me know. We can take a look.
Hey, Mark, I have a question.
Sure.
I'm wondering if you're going to cover before and after photos.
Yeah, so I'm going to really encourage you guys to do, so normally up until today, up until this challenge, we did before and afters for you because we used to come in for your scan. So I'm going to really encourage you guys to do your own photos. This being said, so front, side, and rear shots, fully relaxed, ideally ladies in a bathing suit, guys in shorts. You just want to make sure that the lighting is good. Okay, and the lighting is consistent. And if you have good before and afters, I'm going to put this out here right now. If you have good before and afters and you let me use them, I will give you a rebate. I'll give you some money back. Of course, you have to let me use them for my website. Any other questions? We're good today? Okay. If you have questions, just write me in Slack. I will get back to you, okay? If you feel like you need to have a conversation with me, just let me know and we can make that happen, okay?
Mike, I see a question that someone put in the chat.
Oh,
that
thank you.
wasn't, answered.
Sorry.
It's regarding workouts. Are they going to be recorded if someone isn't going to participate at that time of the workout?
Okay, so right now we already have recorded workouts online. Martina will send out the links for those. We have about a dozen or so recorded workouts. Some are upper body, some are lower body, some are cardio based. So we're going to put those up. As it stands right now, the classes will not be recorded, but we're looking for a solution that will work for this so that we can get all the classes set up, all the classes recorded and put up. But we will have a bunch already available for you.
Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome. Anything else, you guys? Send me your food today, even if it's, you know, you're not happy with it or whatever. Just send me it, regardless of what it is. Send me it, and let's get started, okay? And I'll put out a video today as well. Okay, so start watching my videos. The first couple of videos might be a bit boring, but we're just going to recap what we talked about. And then I'm going to get into some of your questions. So I will be answering your questions. They'll be anonymous on video. So please send me your questions. You will get a link to give me some feedback every week. Okay. I also have topics that I will talk about that I think will be of interest to you. All right. Okay, so if there are no more questions, then we'll stop the meeting here. And this is just the start. We do have a check-in in 2 weeks. Okay, so it's going to come up fast. So let's get cracking. Let's get moving. Just do your best. Know that everything that you do is not done in vain, right? It's going to make a difference. Everything will make a difference. Think of every day as one step forward. Just take it day by day, and let's focus on progression. Don't focus on being perfect. Let's just focus on progression. Okay? Stay tuned for your numbers. Stay tuned for my video, and reach out to me if you have anything that you need to talk about. Any questions, okay?
Oh, there was a question, sorry, around the sizes. I believe there was an instruction about a medium weight, and I'm like, what is a medium weight or a heavyweight or lightweight? What is the range of what that would be considered for the weights we're supposed to purchase?
Oh yeah, okay. So if you have anywhere from a pair of 3s up to 12s, I think those would be good. Maybe 15s, somewhere in that range. So if you're going to purchase some weights, what I would suggest, probably like a pair of 5s, a pair of 10s, and a pair of 15s would be awesome if you're going to go out and purchase them. That would be great.
Thank you, Mark.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, so I'll be in touch with each and every one of you basically today or tomorrow, okay? In terms of numbers, expect an email from me today. It'll be later today, but it will be today. Okay? All right.
Thanks so much, Mark.
Okay, you're most welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome, you guys.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye, everybody.